Good morning. Good morning. Hope everybody had a good day yesterday, but hope everybody stayed safe. So, good morning. This is Wednesday, April 3rd. Man, we're already into April. Wow. Blowing through this year, going through quickly. Excuse me, just one. Let me make an adjustment. Okay, there we go. Now, today running quite a bit late today. Had a couple errands this morning, but I was doing some research, got kind of carried away, and today we're going to talk about something that's been in the news a lot lately. As a matter of fact, it's been on mainstream news, and it's real. And we've alluded to it, we've talked about it, but we want to dig in a little deeper, and that is this critter right here, the red heifer, and people are saying, what is it about the red heifer? Why the red heifer? Why, all of these things? Well, I was looking online, doing some research, and found a number of different folks and different sites. I found, about one by Lisa Lewolt, Lewolt, Lewolt. She had some really good information. We're going to cover some of that today. And then, by another, all these sites have there's a lot of sites that have some really good information about the red heifer and what the significance of the red heifer is on these end times, and why so many folks are saying, hey, we're on the end times. Time is short, so on and so forth. And I thought this would be a good one to go over. So the red heifer, okay, the red heifer is yet another symbol of Christ's sacrifice. Okay, so Jesus was without blemish, right? So he was without blemish. Numbers 19:4 says then Eleazar, the priest, is to take some of the red heifer, blood on his finger and sprinkle it 7 times towards the front of the tent of meeting. Okay. So what's that all about? Why are they talking about sacrificing red heifers? You name it. Well, we can go a little bit further. We'll expand that. Numbers 19. We'll back up to verse 2 and go down through verse 6. How about that? And then I think we're going to touch 17 through 19. So I think let's figure this out. Okay, here's where it is. All right. So this is the ordinance of the law which the Lord hath commanded, saying, speak unto the children of Israel that they bring thee a red heifer without spot, wherein is no blemish, and upon which never came yoke. And ye shall give her unto Eleazar the priest, that he may bring her forth without the camp, and one shall slay her before his face. And Eleazar the priest shall take of her blood with his finger and sprinkle of her blood directly before the tabernacle of the congregation 7 times. And one shall burn the heifer in his sight, her skin and her flesh and her blood with her dung shall he burn, and the priest shall take the cedar wood and the hyssop and scarlet and cast it into the midst of the burning of the heifer. And for an unclean person, this is starting in verse 17, okay, they shall take of the ashes of the burnt heifer of purification for sin, and running water shall be put thereto in a vessel. And a clean person shall take hyssop and dip it in the water and sprinkle it upon the tent and upon the vessels and upon the persons that were there and upon him that touched a bone or one slain or one dead or a grave. And the clean person shall sprinkle upon the unclean on the third day and on the seventh day. And on the seventh day he shall purify himself, wash his clothes, bathe himself in water, and he shall be clean at evening. Okay. So we hear a lot of folks talking about the rebuilding of the temple, but before the rebuilding of the temple, they're talking about having red heifers to be able to sacrifice, to be able to cleanse the temple, those that are unclean, because everybody's ceremonially unclean there in Israel, according to the Jews. So there's a New Testament passage that refers to this. It's in Hebrews 9, verses 11 through 15 as well. And it says, but Christ, being come and high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood he entered in once unto the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. For if the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of a heifer sprinkling the unclean sanctifieth to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, says, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living God. And for this purpose, he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. So that's what we know about the red heifer. Here's two more passages, right? The red heifer was a symbol of Christ in that she was without blemish. Okay, Hebrews 9:14, 1 Peter 1:19, and that she was to be slain outside the camp. Now, Hebrews picks up on this idea as well in Hebrews 13:11 through 14. It says, for the bodies of those beasts whose blood is brought into the sanctuary by the high priest for sin are burned without the camp. In other words, outside the camp. Wherefore, Jesus also, that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered without the gate. Outside, right? Let us go forth, therefore, unto him without the camp, bearing his reproach. For here have we no continuing city, but we seek one to come. Okay. Now, the red heifer was to be slain and burnt outside of the camp, along with cedar, hyssop, and scarlet. All right. The ashes were to be stored in a clean place where they could be retrieved when needed and mixed with water to make a water of purification. Okay. Now, cedar was chosen because it's very aromatic, and the hyssop because of its application of the blood at the Exodus. Remember the doorposts? Okay. The scarlet wool because it symbolizes the blood itself. Those three things that were burnt along with the red heifer were the same that were used in the purification of a person who had leprosy. Now, if you go Leviticus, that tells you all in Leviticus chapter 14, and then Psalm 51:7. So lots of information to take in. Somebody says, well, the color of the red heifer, why red? Because that may be symbolic of blood. Warren Wiersbe believes it could have been symbolic of the earth that man came from. He stated the red color may point to the bloodshed, but perhaps the color speaks of the red earth out of which the first man was made in Genesis 2:7. The name Adam comes from the Hebrew word Adama, which means red earth. So it possible it could be those two. Okay. So what we have here are some these qualifications. We have the red heifer. We understand what's supposed to happen, right? We understand what is supposed to happen What's, you got the hyssop, you got the wood, the hyssop, and it's all put together, and then it's supposed to be mixed with water for a water purification. And a little bit further, it tells you, we see the qualifications of what the red heifer, what it means. Okay, not what it means, the qualifications that it has to meet. Okay, so first of all, there were some rules that would disqualify from sacrifice under rabbinic rules. Okay, if she had been ridden or leaned on, if a garment had been placed over her, or if a bird rested on her. There's a lot of others as well. It also had to be perfectly red, even its hooves had to be red, and it had to be approximately 3 or 4 years old. Older animals could be used, but younger ones could not. And it's got to be completely free from any kind of external or internal defect. And it's not even once. It can't even be yoked, right, with another animal, have anything put, no type of physical uh, labor. So what does that have to do with us today, right? And again, we're just kind of talking about just this first part, the qualifications of the red heifer and what the red heifer is about. So what does that call for us today? Well, as you see now, if you're listening on the podcast, and you can't see this, there I got a picture of a red heifer up right now. But if you were to see this picture of the red heifer, notice it's a youngin, right? And so there's some things specifically about red heifers. First of all, uh, a fella in Texas uh, raised up red heifers. Red heifers were very difficult to find. They're not hard, but they're heifers aren't. But the redness of it, because they are always with blemish. Well, there is a farmer or a cattle rancher or somebody in Texas, and he came upon and he raised up name them five red heifers, and they were shipped to Israel. Okay. These five red heifers back in 2021, 2022. And so, what about these heifers? Of course, remember they had to be 3 years old or older, couldn't be younger. Now, according to Jewish law, the rabbinic law, when an animal ends their second year, they begin they start their third year. Does that make sense? So when they reach two, the day after they reach two, it's as if they've already turned three. They begin their third year. Okay. So with that said, the red heifers qualification wise in Israel have already met that. Okay. So they are in that time frame. Now I think they turned two in September, October last year. And so in November, they are of the age, quote unquote, to be sacrificed. Okay. So what about without blemish? Well, out of the five, one has been said disqualified. Said, okay, there's, whatever, for whatever reason, it's been disqualified. Three are fully without blemish. One is without blemish, but the red is not as red as the other red heifers. Okay. So as we speak right now, they have red heifers that are available for this sacrifice. Okay. And so why are they sacrificing red heifers? We're going to get into that probably tomorrow. But let me finish up with this part of it as well. Somebody says, well, okay. As we're talking, right? We have them without blemish. What's going on? Well, let me first tell you how many red heifers have been sacrificed since Moses' time, right? According to rabbinic tradition, 9 red heifers have been sacrificed. They've not been slaughtered since the destruction of the Second Temple. And a Rabbi Maimonides, Maimonides. I'm massacring that name. I'm sorry. He lived from 1135 to 1204. As a matter of fact, he predicted that the Messiah himself would sacrifice the 10th red heifer. So when a third temple is constructed, those who anticipate the construction are looking for a red heifer that meets all the requirements, since the ashes of the red heifer are going to be necessary for purifying the new temple. Now, several believe that a red heifer will herald Jesus' return, and it'll bring in the construction of the temple. Now, there was a flawless red heifer born in Israel in August 2018 to the Temple Institute, um, and they're a group that supports the construction of the third temple. However, I believe that one was found with blemish, so they couldn't use that one. Okay. There's been a movement since 1967 to rebuild the temple, but the one main obstacle is the Temple Mount. It's occupied by the Dome of the Rock. Okay. So before we go further, the red heifer has to do with, it's connected to the new third temple that has been prophesied in scripture. So somebody says, okay, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? The red heifer is the only animal that can restore what's called the biblical purity necessary to rebuild the temple. Okay. The temple services cannot begin without the red heifer. And and a red heifer must be sacrificed. Okay. Now, here is some speculation about that. Okay, so here's a little more specifics. According to rabbinical tradition, there, like I said, there's been 9 red heifers sacrificed since Moses' day. Okay, the rabbi I spoke earlier, he taught the 10th red heifer would be sacrificed by the Messiah himself. The Temple Institute is that group. They have the 5 flawless red heifers from Texas. They arrived in Israel September 15th, 2022. And a lot of folks think that that is a direct step in fulfillment of prophecy. Somebody says, okay, well, they don't have the temple yet. Well, they don't have to have the temple just yet in order to sacrifice the heifer to make things pure, so that they can move forward with the third temple. Somebody says, okay, well, don't they have to have an altar? Well, here we go. In the photo that I'm showing you right now, it's showing a picture of the altar that has already been built. Now, it's not in place where it needs to be, but it has been built, and it is ready to be used. Okay, and it's ready to be used so that they can cleanse the temple. They can make, whoever pure, and so on. Okay, so there it is. Now, we found out about the red heifer. Now, one more thing, and then I'm going to close today. The group Hamas, they said the main reason that they attacked Israel, one of the reasons, is because they're hiding the red heifers. So it's interesting that came up in world politics, right? It came up in the war. So the red heifer is playing a big, big part of what's going on today. Okay. And so there you go. I just wanted to share that with you guys. Hope you had a good day today. And I hope that you're safe today. Be in prayer for all of those that had any kind of, what do you call it? Problems, destruction, any kind of damage from all the tornadoes that hit all across the country last night and yesterday afternoon. I know one hit very close to my parents' house, probably within a couple miles, in Prospect, Kentucky, and they said it was beat up pretty good. I know Lexington got it pretty good. Places in Ohio and Indiana and West Virginia. Boy, it was, we were fairly lucky here in Tennessee. I know here in Middle Tennessee, they were, we're, we usually have some rough stuff, but uh, just wanted to say, keep that in mind. And I hope you have a good day today. Be safe. Know that you're loved. You're loved by me, but you're loved by Jesus Christ. He is the most important thing today. That He's the most important person that can love you. And He loved you so much, He died on the cross for you. Amen. Amen. Well, friends, have a wonderful day. And until we meet again, bye bye for now.